Hi, I would like to talk about The 100, please. I've recently rewatched The 100, and let me just say, I was a teenager when this show came out. I was 14 in 2014, so I was 1000% the target audience for the show. And I want to talk about how this show manages to simultaneously be probably my favorite show ever, and then also the worst thing that I have ever watched, all rolled up into one across its run of 7 seasons. I love the characters. More than that, I love the character arcs that they go through. I love the fashion. I love the plot lines. I love how they bring up topics that you genuinely don't see in other shows of the same dystopian, end of the world, YA genre, like tribalism, the ethics and implications of AI, identity politics, alt-right pipelines, what it means to be human. But it's also a CW show from 2014, and all of its cripplingly cringy dialogue that makes me want to perish in a nuclear apocalypse. But the show has also created some of my favorite moments on TV ever. And so I want to talk about it, and I need to share it with someone. And I've seen The 100 videos on YouTube, which I highly appreciate. But I don't think the show is getting the attention that it deserves. And that is bonkers to me because the show is wild. So I guess the burden falls on me. Like I said, I was a teenager in the 2010s, so you have to understand that this show was like catnip to me. And I already tried to talk about these little treasures of teenage early 2010s media to anyone who will listen, so might as well bring it to the internet. I'm so sorry. I'm getting over a cold, so you're gonna have to get used to the extra nasally and raspy voice. Please excuse any takes that might have been tainted by the rose-colored glasses that comes from being 14. I'm looking at you, Bellamy Blake, and your crimes. But having watched this show as a fully grown adult, I do think that it gave me a new perspective on it and an interesting take that I would like to share with you today. So in this video and in this series, I will walk you through the show that was The 100, with the highest of the highs and the deepest level of lows. Season 7, I am coming for your ass. Season by season. This video will cover season 1, and I think hopefully already give you kind of an inkling as to why I think that the show was one of the best of its time and genre, which is not saying a lot, although it's not quite there yet. I also would like to walk you through the absolute roller coaster of emotions that I went through when watching a show that has such a promising premise that kind of sets it apart from other shows of its time. Starts out so bad and so cringy, and then gets so good, only to then literally just proceed to catapult itself off a cliff because it was so bad. This is the last 2 seasons. Wowza, I'm dying. The show did run for 7 seasons and a total of 100 episodes, which I do like. Needless to say, this video is highly inspired by the recap series of Jenny Nicholson, Mike's Mike, and Haley Whipjack, minus the board with all the characters. I don't even know where I would put one. And the wigs. We don't have wig budget. Yet. I'm sure you've seen their videos already if you're here. If you haven't, please go watch them. Also, hi, I'm Kat. I don't usually make like media analysis videos. My corner of the internet is very much focused on productivity. I do productivity sessions on Twitch. I host a sort of virtual office for people who are working from home or studying and need a place to be productive online. But I guess I had to step out of that niche because I had to get this off my chest. And I've been having an absolute blast rewatching this show, and I would like to share that with you today. So let's get into it. Also, there will be costumes, kind of. It's serious business here. Number 1, the context. So The 100 premiered on March 19th, 2014. I was actually freshly 15 on the CW. And if you didn't live in the US or somewhere where the CW aired, then it premiered on pirating website. And it's based on a book series. And I mean very loosely based. I haven't read the books, full disclosure, but I do know that the plot differs quite a bit. I know the books are a lot lighter in terms of the themes and just the overall tone. And I'm pretty sure the books only go up until the end of season 1. And then everything else is kind of the show's own thing. The show is set in 2149, which is 97 years after a nuclear apocalypse, where the only survivors were approximately 400 inhabitants of 12 different space stations that are in orbit above the Earth. Those stations all merged into one station called the Ark. Get it? Like Noah's Ark, salvaging humanity from, I want to say, the wrath of God. I was raised Catholic. You would think that I would remember more of this. The essential plot of the beginning of the show is that resources are running low on the Ark, so they need to find another way to survive. Season 1 is 13 episodes long. I could have sworn it was like the usual 22, 24, but no, they just feel incredibly long. And it centers almost entirely on these two parallel storylines of what's happening on the ground with the teenage delinquents trying to survive, and what's happening up on the Ark with the adults trying to keep the station alive and running for long enough for anyone to make it to the ground. These two worlds are sort of in constant tension with each other, especially at the beginning of the season, and you're never quite sure which group is making the right choices. And this is kind of the whole point. Now, I don't want to get too ahead of myself because at the end of the video, I will have like a little reflections section where I talk about more of themes and the trends and like the moral dilemmas that the show is trying to tackle. But thematically speaking, this season does focus on what are humans willing to do to survive and what does doing those things cost them. But don't let this fool you, because as heavy as these themes sound, it's still a CW show, which means that thematically, the show is also concerned about who is kissing who, how many love triangles can we set up in like 3 episodes, and the costuming department associating people being on the ground with just being dirty. It's actually really funny. The more episodes go on, just the more dirt they have on their face. So both of these things are true simultaneously, and the tension between the show's ambitions and the genre that it's constricted to, especially in the first season, is a big part of what makes the show very messy, but also very interesting to watch. And it's part of the reason why I had such a fun time watching it. Number 2, the characters. Let's meet the entourage of characters that we are going to be watching running around this forest in Vancouver for the next 7 years. Starting with the teenage delinquents that start the show in jail and then later on get sent to the ground. Clark Griffin. I love Clark. You need to know that. She is 1000% one of our main protagonists, if not the main character. The show literally starts with her. It's her narration that kind of walks us through everything that's happening and that the expository dialogue is layered over.
It's been 97 years since a nuclear apocalypse killed everyone on Earth, leaving the planet simmering in radiation. Fortunately, there were survivors.
And not to spoil too much, but the show also ends with her. And I think she might be one of my favorite characters who is also a main character. Most of the time, I feel like main characters suffer from a lot of issues because they are the main character. One of them being that they're not allowed to have any flaws, which actually just makes them less relatable and less likable. And also they suffer from this main character syndrome, not only in the sense of everything is about me, but also like they don't really do anything. The show just kind of happens around them. But I don't think Clark is like that. I really like Clark as a main character and just as a character overall. Throughout the show, consistently, I would say. As for her backstory, she grew up as one of the more privileged kids on the Ark. Her mom is the chief medical officer and her dad was a high-up engineer. She's trained in medicine, we assume because she's assisted her mom in medical stuff. And I'm pretty sure she wants to be a doctor. She draws. She has a strong moral compass, which really drives the plot forwards, especially in the beginning of the season. And she's kind of our like reality check girly. Like she's the straight man in our group. She ends up as the de facto leader of the 100 on the ground, functioning both as the group's medic, but also just the voice of reason. And she's often in direct conflict with Bellamy, who is another leader. The reason why she's in prison is because her dad found out that the Ark was running out of oxygen and resources, and he wanted to go public with this information, and she was arrested because she was an accomplice in making this information public. A few words to describe our girly Clark would be logical, smart, and the mom friend. Like she'll have medicine for you in her purse. She always has an extra tampon even though she's not on her period. And she will drive your drunk ass home and tuck you into bed and give you a lecture the next morning. A fun fact about Clark, not so much about the character or the show, but my experience watching the show, is that she has the same initials as me. And so I feel spiritually connected to her. Ah, Bellamy Blake. Bellamy is the yin to Clark's yang in the sense that these two can never seem to freaking get along. Bellamy is in his early 20s. We will get to that. And he's not technically a prisoner at all. He is a former member of the Ark's guard, like their police, and he smuggled himself onto the dropship because his younger sister was on the dropship and he wanted to go with her to the ground. He didn't want her to be alone. On the ground, he immediately positions himself as the leader, playing on the teenage delinquent's desire for freedom and zero consequences and no rules. And I guess that's easy to do when you are much older than everyone else around you. He and Clark eventually become reluctant co-leaders, my favorite dynamic. And he shot the Chancellor. Who's the Chancellor? Don't worry about it. Couple words to describe our boy Bellamy. He is giving grumpy and impulsive, but at the same time, inspiring and protective, especially towards his little sister. And a fun fact about Bellamy is that I named one of my dogs after him. His name was Belle. Octavia Blake is Bellamy's younger sister. She's around 16 and she essentially never had a life. She's actually illegal just by existing because she is a second child and the Ark has a strict one child per family policy. And she spent her entire childhood hiding under the floor of her family's quarters. She was never allowed to go to school. She was never allowed to have friends. She was never allowed to exist as a person publicly or live, really. When she was discovered, she was immediately imprisoned. So the moment she lands on Earth and there is no one telling her what to do, this girl goes absolutely freaking feral and immediately starts making every decision possible all at once. And honestly, that makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw her doing the whatever equivalent of cocaine is in this universe in like episode 2. A few words to describe Octavia would be brave and naive and feral, which means something this season, but if you give it a couple seasons, it will mean something else. A fun fact about Octavia is that I also named one of my dogs after her. Her name was O because her and Belle were puppy siblings. Finn Collins. Finn is presented to us as the sort of free spirit of the group. He's the one who wants to explore and build bridges rather than walls. This will age poorly. He acts as sort of a mediator between Bellamy and Clark's very different leadership style and beliefs, and early on develops a romantic relationship with Clark on the ground. He has a background in engineering and navigation, which is very cool and useful in this universe, except for the fact that we never really see him do anything related to that, except for characters telling us that he has a background in these things. And he mostly just kind of stands around and goes, "Come on, guys, why can't we just get along?" And I fear that that would be me in this scenario. Maybe that's why I, spoiler alert, don't like him very much as a character. Maybe it's because I see too much of myself in him. He is in prison because he took an unauthorized spacewalk outside of the Ark and he spent, I think, like 6 months worth of oxygen. Yeah, out of everyone here, I think he would be the one that so far deserves to be locked up the most. I don't know if he deserves to die. Being in jail, maybe. Definitely some community service. Can read to the elderly or something. Wait. A couple words to describe Finn would be idealistic, diplomatic. It's just honestly, I didn't remember that Finn existed until I started my rewatch. And that should tell you everything that you need to know. Fun fact about Finn, I don't have one because he literally did not exist to me. But the actor that plays him did feature in a lot of the werewolf fanfictions that I was reading at around the same time. So Raven Reyes is one of my absolute favorite characters throughout the whole show. And kind of just from the get-go, except for the stupid love triangle that they force her into in the beginning of season 1. Girl, get up. Raven is actually not one of the original 100. She is a zero-G mechanic on the Ark. She's one of the youngest and the most talented that they have, of course. And she builds her own escape pod and she flies down to Earth by herself to see her boyfriend, Finn. She's around 18 years old, and this is just one of the many, 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 many absolutely insane, unhinged things that this show will make this poor girl do. On the ground, she becomes the group's engineer and weapons master, so if anything technical or mechanical needs to be fixed or done, Raven can do it. Think like Bonnie Bennett in the Vampire Diaries and how they just kind of use her character to fix everything that could possibly go wrong. That's Raven here. Some words to describe Raven: overqualified, baddie, motomami. Fun fact about Raven, and this is actually about her character, she was originally written in as Finn's mom, but then that got scrapped. Although I do think that that still bleeds through a little bit. Remember how I talked about cocaine earlier? I present to you Jasper and Monty. Jasper Jordan is one of Clark's best friends from the arc. He is optimistic, he's excitable, he's kind of aloof. My king. One of my favorite parts about this character is that he is one of the first and few characters to genuinely be excited about being on the ground and enjoying being back on Earth. Although this excitement and joy does get tested at times.
Jasper.
He's funny and warm, and the show uses him as kind of the emotional barometer of the group. When things are good, Jasper is good. When things are not, Jasper has an existential crisis. Jasper and Monty were arrested together for manufacturing illegal substances on the Ark. Jasper is high, goofy, excitable puppy dog guy. Monty Green is Jasper's best friend. He's the quieter, more analytical half of their comedic relief duo. He's the group's tech expert also, especially when Raven isn't there. And he's more of like the science guy and like the chemistry guy. He's the one who makes moonshine for everybody. And Raven is more like the mechanical guy. He's consistently the most practically useful person in the camp. I love him and I would die for him. John Murphy. Murphy is one of the 100 who very quickly establishes himself as dangerous and like a loose cannon. He's aggressive, he's manipulative, and he's willing to use violence to get what he wants, which makes him both very useful, especially to Bellamy in the beginning, and also a genuine threat to everyone around him. He has no obvious allies and he operates almost entirely out of self-interest, which he is not shy about. He's a very interesting character and arguably has one of the most, if not the most intense and best character arc and character growth in the whole show. The show is not asking you to like him in season 1, and that's good because I don't like him. I don't like him at all in the earlier seasons. He annoys me. Let me be clear. I know that there's a lot of Murphy apologist girlies who love him very much. I like his character. Again, I think he has one of the most interesting, like fleshed out character arcs in the whole show and character development. He's also super clever, more than people give him credit for. In the later seasons, there's some body snatching plot going on, and he is the only one who realizes that this is happening and that Clark is not really Clark.
You're not Clark.
A la Jenna in Pretty Little Liars figuring out that Spencer has an evil twin because of her sense of smell.
Is that a new perfume you're wearing?
Oh, it's called horsehair. I was at the stables this morning with Toby.
Hi, Toby. I know this may sound weird, but I don't think Spencer's Spencer.
I just don't care about him in the earlier seasons. I don't. He is in prison for assault. Charming. And later we find out that he set fire to the quarters of the guy who floated his parents or who's responsible for his dad's death. Do with that what you will. Some words to describe Murphy would be a menace, scrappy, and the guy your mom prays that you don't bring home. Yet. That is all of our main characters on the ground. There will be more here and there sprinkled in, but I can't go into detail into all of them. Let's check in on our baddies in the arc. Hands down, most important character walking around the arc, it's Abigail Griffin. I don't know if her name is Abigail, actually, but to me, it is. She's Clark's mom, and she's the ARC's chief medical officer. She's the emotional and moral center of the ARC storyline, especially. She's the person who's most desperately trying to find out if her daughter is alive, and also the person most willing to break the rules to do it. Her relationship with Clark is quite complicated, especially because of a development that comes in halfway through the season. And surprisingly, one of the most compelling storylines to me while I was rewatching the show. So, yeah, this relationship is made even more complicated by the secret that Abby is hiding, and she desperately does not want Clark to know. And it's absolutely eating Abby alive. Some words to describe our girl Abby would be headstrong, protective, morally gray, but like in the best way possible. Marcus Kane, or Kane, is a senior council member and the pragmatist. Pragmatist. I wrote that word, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Of the ARC. He is cold, he is precise, and he is willing to make the hardest possible calls to keep the human race alive and going. He's kind of the only one who's willing to realistically do the maths on human life and what it's gonna cost. And he acts on it without flinching, especially in the earlier episodes. And the show doesn't really let him stay comfortable in that, which I enjoy. Some words to describe him: uncompromising, calculated, vulnerable. Last guy from the ARC that I'm going to want to talk about, or think it's relevant to talk about, is Chancellor Thelonious Jaha. He is the Chancellor, President, Mayor of Space? He's a true leader and also a true believer. He believes in humanity. He believes in survival. He believes in his people. He believes in doing what's right. And he carries the weight of all of these decisions personally. He authorizes sending children to the ground as test subjects, but he also loses sleep over that choice. Some words to describe Jaha would be burdened, principled, tragic. Okay, I think that's it. Onwards to the plot. Part 3, the plot. When I start sweating profusely, I hope you know that it's because I'm committed to the bit. It is way too warm to be wearing this genuinely 2014 bomber jacket that I found. But I think it fits. I think this is who I would be in universe. Bomber jacket, skinny jeans, pink. We open in the Ark in 2149. They run a tight ship on the Ark. Any and all crimes are punished by death, which in this universe is called floating, and it's essentially getting ejected from the Ark into outer space. Unless you are under 18, in which case you go to prison. We see the prison, which is huge, by the way. I don't know if it came with the space station or if it was built after. I don't know if they were expecting a lot of crime from the youth. Clark, our main character, is in solitary confinement, which we will find out why later on. And she's telling us the story of the nuclear apocalypse in a mandatorily low-cut top as a 16 or 17-year-old show on a CW. It's like kind of what I'm cosplaying, but I'm being cute about it.
It's been 97 years since a nuclear apocalypse killed everyone on Earth, leaving the planet simmering in radiation. Fortunately, there were survivors. 12 nations had operational space stations at the time of the bombs. There is now only the Ark, one station forged from the many.
She's drawing on the floor and on the walls of her cell, and I'm sure this is a personality trait that the show is going to keep bringing back. And they're not going to forget about it after a couple episodes. Although I'm not going to lie, picking up a hobby whilst you're in isolation, and then once restrictions are lifted, you never pick up this hobby ever again. That might be the most relatable part of this episode. Then, all of a sudden, guards barge in. Clark panics, thinking she's gonna get executed because she's close to being 18, though she's not 18 yet. But her mom comes in and tells her that she's not getting executed. She's being sent to the ground. So Clark gets tranquilized and wakes up on the dropship. On said dropship, Clark wakes up and she's next to Wells Jaha. I did not talk about him. I do not want to talk about him. He's the son of the Chancellor. He's Jaha's son, and he is the former best friend of Clark, and he got himself arrested just so he could be on the dropship with her. A lot of that going around here. I think the character of Wells is actually quite promising. I think most people probably thought he would be more relevant to the story. He isn't. He dies like 2 episodes in. He is more relevant in the books. Clark is not happy to see Wells. They had a little bit of a falling out. There's some sort of animosity there, which we'll find out about later. And she also meets Finn, who unbuckles his seatbelt and starts doing aerial tricks in zero gravity since they're like in space, about to descend into Earth. 2 other teenage delinquents follow his lead and unbuckle their seatbelts as well. Then a video message starts playing on the dropship, and it's from Chancellor Jaha explaining that the 100 are being sent down to Earth because they're expendable. Ouch. And that if they cooperate, then their crimes will be forgiven. However, there are complications with the landing. The dropship is coming down too fast, and it crash lands on Earth, and the 2 kids who got out of their seats expire. Everyone's very disoriented but alive and okay, and they're trying to leave the dropship. This is being led by Bellamy Blake, who is about to open the door.
Stop! The air could be toxic.
The air's toxic. We're all dead anyway.
He's got a point. Then in comes Octavia, Bellamy's younger sister, been hiding her whole life, illegal second child, blah, blah, blah. And even if you don't remember, it's not like they're gonna let you forget about it because they mention it not once, but twice in the span of like 5 seconds.
Bellamy?
That's the girl they hid under the floor.
That's Octavia Blake, the girl they found hidden in the floor.
Also, someone says no one has a brother, which is true, but it's said in a way that's so unnatural.
Do you mind? I haven't seen my brother in a year.
No one has a brother.
Maybe you would say, like, we don't have brothers, or like, no one has siblings, but no one has a brother seems wrong to me, like grammatically speaking. Do you know what I mean? Bellamy says that he wants people to remember Octavia for more than just being the girl under the floor, but rather for being the first human back on Earth in 100 years. So he opens the door to the dropship, and out they go. And of course, there is the mandatory on-the-nose pop Imagine Dragons song in this montage of teenagers running amok in a post-apocalyptic Earth. And of course, it's radioactive. Get it? Also, this specific on-the-nose Imagine Dragons song was really making the rounds on the CW at the time. I'm pretty sure it was also in the Vampire Diaries, and also used poorly.
Or you can just leave.
I don't abandon my friends, Dad.
Is someone listening to Imagine Dragons Radioactive in the next room?
Clark, being the absolute legend that she is, and the only person around with a brain, figures out that they actually got dropped on the wrong spot. They were supposed to be in Mount Weather, but they're quite far away from it. So she starts mapping out a whole route to get to Mount Weather. She draws one single line on a map, and Wells goes,
Where's you learn to do that?
poor guy. There weren't a lot of options on the arc, although I too would go, oh my god, you're so pretty and like so smart if Eliza Taylor was doing literally anything in front of me. So fair dues. I'm going to save you some time, and I'm going to tell you right now that the dialogue in this episode specifically is whoa-wee so bad.
Hey, Spacewalker. Rescue me next.
This is what I was mentioning before about the show suffering from the genre that it's constricted to and not having yet found its footing and finding the thing that sets it apart from other shows of its time and make it so enjoyable to watch. Spoiler alert, the thing that sets it apart is not following suit with the cringy teenage dialogue that was clearly written by middle-aged people. The showrunner, Jason Rothenberg, actually said in an interview that he considers the first 2 episodes of season 1 the worst ones in the series. And I'm inclined to agree. He also said that the teen drama feel of it all in the first couple of episodes caused a lot of viewers to give up on the show before it got really good and it became what it actually was and what made it so popular. Anyway, post crash landing on the ground, fighting ensues. Wells hurts his leg. Finn does an aerial from where he was perched up like a gargoyle somewhere on the dropship.
Kid's got one leg. How about you wait until it's a fair fight?
Hey, Spacewalker. Rescue me next.
Meanwhile, on the Ark, the adults are aware and concerned about the literal children that they are sending to this radioactive wasteland, but some are more concerned than others. And not everyone is aware that there's a bunch of teenagers running around on the ground. Only a select few, the council, the people who make the decisions, there's like 8 people on the council, only they are aware. Abby being the most concerned out of everyone there, but she can't worry about this for too long because, Jaha has been shot. You remember Bellamy shot the Chancellor just before he got put on the dropship. Abby is in surgery and she's trying to save his life. He's been shot in the stomach and she is using too much blood and too much anesthesia. She's using too many resources in order to save his life and to continue with the operation. So this is a pretty big deal and a pretty big offense on Abby's part, according to the ARC standards. A commander of the ARC tells Kane this, who at this point is essentially acting as Chancellor with Jaha indisposed. He tells him that they've identified the shooter and that it's most likely Bellamy Blake and that his motivation was clear. He wanted to be on the dropship with his sister. But Kane is less concerned about why he did it and more interested in finding out how, because he had to get help to be able to shoot the Chancellor and also to get on the ship. The guard commander also takes this opportunity to push Kane towards something that he's already been thinking about, which is the need to reduce the population in the Ark.
You can give the order to start reducing the population. Not yet.
And the maths are brutal. And Kane is kind of the only person who is considering this maths and this possibility more seriously.
We're gonna kill hundreds of innocent people. We're gonna do it by the book.
So actually for Kane and this agenda, Jaha being out of commission for the moment is actually a good thing because previously he had been vehemently opposed to letting this happen. Because the plan is to kill off a certain number of the population so that a bigger percentage of the population can survive. Abby does save Jaha's life, but in doing so, she breaks the law. So Kane has her arrested immediately. He finds her guilty and he sentences her to death, which is scheduled for the morning after. The morning after, she is led to the airlock, which is how and where her husband died, by the way. And everyone is very ready to carry out this order and to kill arguably one of the most important people on the Ark, the chief medical officer, their main doctor, who just saved the life of probably the other most important person on the Ark, their leader. And Kane gives the go-ahead to float her. But in comes Jaha, who is awake from surgery at the last possible second, and who lost so much blood that Abby got in trouble and almost got floated for using too much blood, who got shot in the stomach, not even 24 hours prior, and is somehow already able to walk. So he walks in and he pardons Abby, and she walks out of the airlock, and she tells Jaha to go to bed, and she leaves. I love that woman. Back on the ground, Murphy spells die wrong, and Bellamy incites a riot. The fighting continues because some people want to venture out into Mount Weather, and other people, most people, don't want to keep taking orders from the Ark. This group of people is being led by Bellamy, and he starts telling people that they should take off their bracelets. They have bracelets which are monitoring their vitals. People in the Ark can see how they're doing, and he says they don't owe anything to the Ark. The whole talk about their crimes being forgiven is a lie, which could be true. And the only way to stop the adults from following them down is to make them think that they died because the Earth isn't survivable, and then they'd be free. If they take off their bracelets, they can achieve this because it's as if they've died. They can't track their vitals anymore. Find Mount Weather crew is Clark, Finn, Octavia, Jasper, and Monty, which is more or less our core group anyway. The group makes their way through a very lush forest, and they're quite surprised with how green everything is. And I'm surprised that someone doesn't say, "We've never seen green," or something stupid like that. They do encounter a deer in a clearing. Oh, so cute. No one has seen a deer. I'm sorry, I'll stop. The deer has 2 faces. It's a mutant deer. Which gives us our first inkling that maybe Earth is not the lush utopia paradise sanctuary that we thought it could be. Mount Weather Group continue their exploration. Clark and Finn are having romantic moments, blah, 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 don't care. They're flirting here and there, with Finn insisting on calling her princess.
You don't like being called princess, do you, princess?
I knew there was a reason I didn't like you. Princess? Shoot me. They reach a river, and Clark tells them that the real reason that they were sent down is because the Ark is dying, and they have about 3 to 4 months of life support left. Her father was floated for knowing this. And Finn says,
We have to warn them.
That's what my father said.
okay. Then we get the mandatory shot of a semi-naked woman who is supposed to be a 16-year-old Octavia who wants to go for a swim.
We can't swim.
Again, with the grammar. There is something in the water, however, something big, and it snatches Octavia up and it drags her under the water, drags her away. And Jasper jumps in to save her. The rest of the group are trying to distract this water serpent snake, and they rescue her.
Note to self. Next time, save the girl.
This dialogue, I can't. It's like they copied the fan fiction I used to write when I was 12, word for word. That night at camp, the wristbands are coming off. Wells tries to reason with Bellamy, and Bellamy declares that there are no laws here, that they can do
Whatever the hell we want.
Whatever the hell we want!
While the kids are taking off their bracelets on the Ark, they do suspect that maybe that's what they're doing. They're not just dying because they see that their vitals are completely fine one moment and then fully gone the next. So this doesn't really work, but it creates some tension, I guess. Mount Weather Group finds a forest full of bioluminescence, which is genuinely one of the most beautiful shots of the season. I really like it. And they head out to cross the river to Mount Weather. Jasper wants to go first because he wants to impress Octavia, and I don't know if I would be very impressed by that, but we've also established that my type so far has been logical ladies, so he does make it across. He grabs the Mount Weather sign, everyone is celebrating, and then he gets a spear through the chest.
Jasper! Jasper!
We're not alone.
That was pretty bold, killing what looks like a main character in the first episode. This is actually a pattern that we will keep seeing with the show, that they don't shy away from killing off important characters. Is this always well executed? I have a lot of thoughts. Let's save them for the recap. Episode 2 is called Earth Skills, and I don't think all episodes are going to take me that long to recap. There's just a lot of information in the first couple of episodes. You have to bear with me. Exploration group post Jasper Shish Kebab are running away. Clearly, the spear was meant as a warning that this is someone else's territory, that they are clearly trespassing, and that they should not. However, Jasper screams, and they hear it. How he's alive, I don't know. But they decide to go back to rescue him. But when they get back to the river, his body is gone. Back at camp, Wells is digging graves for 2 people, and it did take me quite a while to realize that it's the 2 kids that died upon landing. Bellamy comes out of a tent, shirtless, with his hair down. Finally, what the hell was that on episode 1? And he's kissing a random girl because that's how they established that he's the leader, the much, much older leader, who is by default an underage girl because they're all under 18. John Menace Murphy is threatening to burn a girl because he wants the Ark to think that they're suffering. What a charmer. Wells comes in to save her and to fight Murphy, but they're interrupted by the exploration crew who come in and explain everything that's happened with Jasper by the river. Good news is that they won't die from radiation because there are other sentient beings that have lived here for a while. The bad news is that these sentient beings could very well be the thing that kills them. They start calling these people the Grounders. Clark starts gathering supplies and people to rescue Jasper. She approaches Bellamy and she asks him to join because he has a gun, and Murphy tags along as well. But secretly, Bellamy and Murphy want to take off Clark's bracelet by force. She does not want to take off her bracelet. She does not want the Ark to think that she's dead. She does not want her mom to think that she's dead. Up in the Ark, on the Ark, Jaha goes into the control center and finds out that the 100 are on the ground. I guess no one told him. Abby and Jaha are talking about the need to decrease the population and saying that people are already exhibiting signs of oxygen deprivation. And if they don't do anything, everyone will be dead within 4 months. Kane comes in and Jaha asks him who shot him, saying he wonders who could have possibly benefited most from his death. He thinks Kane did it because he would most likely be the person that would take charge in his absence. So we see some real distrust between Jaha and who we assume is his second in command. And also there's tension obviously between Abby and Kane, considering how he gave the order to float her like 30 seconds ago. The council, you know how there's a council, votes that they have 10 days to figure out a solution for the oxygen problem. Otherwise, they will have to take other measures to reduce the population. And this is a ticking time bomb because, according to their calculations, every day that passes, 10 more people would need to be sacrificed. Still in space, we meet Raven Reyes, who's finishing a spacewalk repair outside of the Ark. She asks her colleague Red about the dropship that she saw just being launched, and she learns that there was an accident during maintenance, and so they had to eject that pod. Nothing's wrong. She doesn't know that the 100 were in that pod. She doesn't know that her boyfriend Finn was in that pod. So she says she's going to go visit him in prison. And she learns that she can't because there was an outbreak and the prison is on lockdown. No one can go in. Raven finds this all very suspicious and she investigates a little. Very smart, very logical lady. She talks to Abby, who doesn't want to say anything, and her suspicions are even higher now. Also, even Abby tells Raven that Raven reminds her of Clark.
Ballsy kid. Reminds me of someone.
And she does, because they're both baddies with a brain. And that's why I love them so much. Abby eventually tells Raven that the Ark is dying and that they have 10 days to figure out if the Earth is survivable. And they will do this by building an escape pod so Abby can go down to the ground. Raven wants to go too, because her boyfriend is down there.
You're not the only one with someone you love on the ground.
All right, you can come with me.
You got yourself a mechanic.
Back at camp, Octavia is just causing problems and flirting with everybody. And honestly, yeah, all right. If I had been stuck under the floor for forever and I never had like an actual relationship or like a friendship or anything with another human that wasn't my mom or my brother, yeah, I would be a little thirsty too. So she's doing a little bit too much and she gets locked in the dropship, which is also valid. And this is where Monty is doing his tech thing, trying to communicate with the Ark via the bracelets, and Octavia helps him. Finn actually does join them on the Rescue Jasper mission. He didn't want to stay behind, and he gets upset when Bellamy calls Clark Princess, because that's his nickname for her, even though it's kind of meant as an insult because he's calling her privileged. And for some reason, I just don't mind it as much when Bellamy says it.
Brave princess.
Why don't you find your own nickname?
And it's not the blinding 14-year-old crush, okay? Finn's the problem. Bellamy confronts Wells about the fact that Wells is clearly and obviously in love with Clark, and points out that with Finn around, there's no way that Clark is going to notice him. This is silly. They have known each other their whole lives. It's not because a new person comes in and she seems to be interested in that person that his chances are squashed. I fear we were there already. They find a trickling waterfall, which means fresh water, and I'm surprised this wasn't higher on anyone's priority list. Finn is trying to splash Clark and telling her to let loose and relax, when this is literally the apocalypse and they are looking for their dying friend who got skewered and kidnapped. No! Get away from me! You're acting like a 5-year-old at a water park. Ew. Clark is the only person keeping people alive, and he so would be the guy that would tell you to just chill during the apocalypse. So they find traces of Jasper's blood and his goggles, so they know they're on the right track. Octavia, in the meantime, gets released from her dropship prison, and she's helping out at camp when she sees a fluorescent butterfly, and she chases after it into the woods all alone. Octavia's like so pretty and equal parts dum-dum. Adam, who is another delinquent person, follows her and they have this whole moment and they're surrounded by butterflies, and they kiss. Exploration group find Jasper, kind of. He is beaten, bleeding, and strung up on a tree. Clark starts running towards him, but she falls into a trap, and Bellamy grabs her just in time before she falls, and he very clearly contemplates just kind of dropping her and letting her fall to her death, but then everyone grabs her and they pull her up. I would like to say I cannot handle Finn's hair. I don't like Finn's hair. Get it off my screen. The group returned to camp with Jasper, who is in desperate need of medical attention, which Clark can help with, but she also has limited medical knowledge, but I guess it's better than everyone else at camp. Finn comes in, gives Clark a sculpture of a deer with 2 heads because that's his thing. He sculpts things for people. And then we cut to Raven on the Ark, who has a bird raven necklace. And this is how we find out that they're together. But I've told you this already. Bellamy is giving people food in exchange for them taking off their bracelets, which Clark also states is crazy and manipulative. And then we see a person, a human in a mask, up on a tree, watching them. Episode 3 is called Earth Kills. I see what you did there. At camp, Clark finds a girl who is plagued by nightmares. Her name is Charlotte. She's 13, and she tells Clark that her parents were floated, and that's what she has nightmares about. And they bond because Clark's dad was also floated. I feel like most people's relatives would have been floated at this point, no? Also, this is when I realized you can't have cousins. Or, sorry, no one has a cousin.
No one has a brother.
Or aunts. Or uncles. Because your parents can't have siblings. That's so sad. I'm Portuguese. What would I do without all 24 of my cousins? So this 13-year-old girl is in prison because she assaulted a guard while her parents were getting floated. Again, I say she is 13. Younger, presumably, when this is all happening, and her parents got floated. I think that's a weak reason for arresting this literal child. I had to Google what her parents did to get floated, and it says unknown crime. Great. I'm so glad we've arrested the 12-year-old for that. Meanwhile, Trina and Pascal are wandering around the woods. Who the hell are Trina and Pascal? Doesn't matter. They get got because of this acid fog that starts moving towards the camp. The next day, Bellamy is teaching Murphy how to throw sharp objects. Great idea. Don't see anything going wrong there. Jasper, poor guy, remember him? Human kebab. He's not doing so good. He is going through it, and people at camp are not happy about it. He's kind of bringing the morale down with all of his crying and agony. If you could just, Clark says that the grounders actually cauterized Jasper's wound, and that's what saved his life, but it could still be infected, so she tells Wells to hold Jasper down, and she cuts away at the infected flesh. She is so badass. She scares me a little bit. Bellamy comes in, says Clark doesn't have the balls to make the hard choices, but he does, so Jasper has 1 day to get better. Otherwise, Bellamy will the guy. Octavia is also there, by the way, and Bellamy tells her to leave with him, and she says no, and that she's staying with them, and she's helping Jasper, which is really nice. But also at this point, she's kind of just siding with whoever isn't pissing her off at the moment, which I guess is very typical behavior for a 16-year-old.
If he's not better by tomorrow, I'll kill him myself. Octavia, let's go.
I'm staying here.
Oh yeah, there's tension between Octavia and Bellamy because Adam kissed Octavia, and Adam is part of Bellamy's posse, and no one can touch his sister, so Bellamy hurt Adam or something. Clark and Finn set off on a trip to find some seawater, which is apparently this thing that the grounders use to help Jasper's wound, and so they need to go find more. And Wells is good at botany, so he tags along, much to Clark's annoyance. Meanwhile, there's another group going out, and they're going hunting, and this includes Bellamy and Adam, and Charlotte chases after them because she says she cannot stay at camp, she cannot listen to Jasper's screams anymore. And Bellamy is like, yeah, little girl, sure, come on this hunting trip. Have you ever killed anything? Here's a knife.
But you can't hunt without a weapon. Ever killed something before?
Right after almost killing her accidentally by throwing an axe at her. This guy has no parental instincts. This is kind of where the show starts feeling like a video game when you have a certain number of people in your camp, but you can only bring a select few on your adventures. So you have like maximum 5 people in your party at all times. And I understand it. It's because it's our main characters and we can't just focus on what's going on with all the 100 or the 96 at this point. Actually, no, 97. Because Bellamy wasn't counted as one of the 100. So it was actually the 101 before they even got to Earth. Anyway, we have to follow our main characters and they have to explore their surroundings. And I understand that, but it's just funny how they rotate between each other when they do that. Seaweed Exploration Group reach a river and they have to get in the water. And Finn and Wells are trying to think about, oh, we can trap the sea snake like this, or we can do this. And then we cut to Clark and she is waist deep in the water, already just getting the damn thing. A little dumb, but very practical. I love her so much. They successfully collect the funny red seaweed, and what looks like a storm, the acid fog, starts coming towards them. So they have to run and they have to take cover somewhere. Adam dies. I think he gets caught in the fog and is calling out to Bellamy, and that's kind of it. Seaweed crew takes cover in an abandoned vehicle, and Finn finds some alcohol, and him and Clark start drinking.
Alcohol's toxic.
This is Earth. Everything's toxic. Plus, it's a time-honored rite of passage.
Will pass.
Far be it from me to stand in the way of tradition.
In the cave with the hunting group, Charlotte is having more nightmares, and Bellamy wakes her up from the nightmares and tells her that it doesn't matter what she's scared of. What matters is what she does about it. He tells her to slay her demons while she's awake, and that way they won't follow her into her dreams. He takes a knife and he gives it to her.
You can't afford to be weak. Down here, weakness is death. Fear is death.
I'm sure this won't be taken literally by the 13-year-old traumatized little orphan girl. And he gives her another knife. She's got 2 knives now? In order for the rest of the episode to make sense, I need to let you know about this flashback that we get from the arc. This is how the episodes are structured usually. We have present time on the ground, and then we cut to in between that and the arc, and sometimes an arc flashback, which I do enjoy this one. I like this flashback. So 1 year ago, things are still good. Clark's dad is alive. His name is something Griffin, Mr. Griffin. Clark and Jaha and him are watching a football game from like 100 years ago, which makes me wonder how they got it there. I guess it makes sense that when they were gathering supplies for like the end of the world, they also gathered entertainment. That makes sense, but like, how do they decide? Football reruns make sense. I would petition for classic Barbie movies and reality TV and Shrek. Different, similar flashback. Clark and Wells are playing chess. Clark is distracted because of the whole oxygen issue that she found out about, and she confides in Wells, and he says that her secret is safe with him. Meanwhile, Mr. Griffin is vlogging, okay? And he's recording a message about the oxygen issue because he thinks people have the right to know. But security barges in, and they take him away.
Jake Griffin, you're under arrest for treason.
Dad? No, 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 no.
And his name is Jake. Okay, Jake Griffin. Jake Griffin gets arrested. And Clark says that she will find a way to make sure that people know about it. That's why she got arrested, because they didn't want her to tell people. That's why she's in solitary confinement. I did not even register that when I was first watching the show. Everyone else, we assume, is just in prison. On the ground, Clark is drunk and upset that people think she's a buzzkill. Which, like, I get it, but also, in this scenario, I feel like we could use a little bit more of that around here. Wells tells her that she is fun. She's not a buzzkill, and he tries to reminisce with her before Clark interrupts him by saying, yeah, remember that time you got my dad executed? They're finally talking about it, at least, and Wells says that he made a mistake, and Clark says that that is not good enough. And Wells says that he told his dad because he thought he could trust his dad, and Clark says that she thought she could trust him. A few hours later, the fog has cleared, and seaweed crew and hunting crew all head back to camp. Finn asks Wells again why he told on Clark, and Wells refuses to give him a straight answer. Then Finn goes over to Clark and says that she was way too hard on him for not forgiving him for floating her dad. Not really, he just told his dad. He didn't float Clark's dad, but you know what I mean. And Finn is really stepping into his like mediator, diplomatic character role here, which I like. I think it suits him well. He also suggests to Clark that maybe Wells isn't the one who told on her dad. So Adam is dead, or he is dying, technically, which scares Charlotte, who finds him on the ground, just barely hanging on. Bellamy comes in, sees Adam. Adam begs Bellamy to kill him and end his suffering because he's in an insufferable amount of pain. And Charlotte steps up with her knife and hands it to Bellamy. And he tells Charlotte to go back to camp so she doesn't have to see anything. And you can tell in this moment, Bellamy is really gathering his courage to end Adam's life as a mercy. But before he can do it, Clark appears because she heard screaming. And she looks at Adam, she inspects his wounds, and she shakes her head at Bellamy. There's no saving him.
I'm gonna help you. All right?
And she begins to hum a song and takes the knife from Bellamy's hand, and she gently and quickly pushes the knife into Adam's neck, and she continues to hum to him as she does. Quick and merciful. Meanwhile, Charlotte is watching all of this. She did not go to camp. I'm sure this won't give this traumatized little girl any idea. Both crews are back at camp. Clark goes to help Jasper, and Bellamy, who had a recent change of heart, commands his goons to get her whatever she wants.
Get Clark whatever she needs.
Octavia comes in, asks about Adam, sees his body, is very sad, is very upset at her brother, whatever. Adam was around for literally 5 minutes in our lives and also Octavia's life. It's very dumb that Octavia's mad at Bellamy because Adam very clearly died from the acid fog, which everyone was running from and she knew was out there, but she still chooses to be upset at Bellamy. I'm gonna jump back into the arc flashback very quickly. It just makes more sense this way. It's time for Jake Griffin's execution. He's getting floated. His wife, Abby, is there and they're saying goodbye. Abby gives her husband, Jake, one last bit of hope. She says that the earth is changing and it might be possible to return there soon, so they might not be doomed after all. Can I just say, Abby is being way more chill and eloquent about the fact that her husband is about to get floated, the father of her child, and she's holding it together way better than I would be in that situation. Clark and Wells also show up, and Clark says goodbye to her dad. And I love Eliza Taylor's acting in this scene.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
I feel like she was acting way more like how I would act in this situation. The whole family hugs one last time, and still smiling at them, Jake Griffin gets floated, which is actually such a sad moment, and I did tear up while watching it. But it is also made absolutely ridiculous by the special effects that they use. I didn't mention it when it happened, but when Octavia was taken by the sea snake, they did the same, like, wah! Wah! It's like they're on a roller coaster or something. I'm sorry, very sad. R.I.P. Or, as the people on the ark say, maybe meet again. Back in the present and back at camp, Jasper is not screaming in agony anymore. Clark, Octavia, and Monty are helping him and tending to his wounds. Meanwhile, Wells is outside digging a grave for Adam. It's just what he does. Clark approaches and she point blank asks Wells if it was Abby, her mom, who told Jaha about her dad's plan. Because deep down, she knew that that's what had happened, but she didn't want to believe it. That's what she was afraid of. But then it seems a little harsh to have held a grudge against your best friend for all that time, but okay. Clark asks for forgiveness, and he says it's already done. And then they hug, and they make up. Massive of the massive W's for Wells. He let Clark hate him for so long so that she didn't hate her mom. And he never said anything. I'm starting to like this kid. On the other hand, woo-wee, is that going to be tough for Clark and Abby's relationship. This also probably kind of explains why and how Abby was keeping it together so well while Jake Griffin was being floated. Initially, I thought that maybe it was just an acting choice from the actress, and she wanted to portray Abby as being this sturdy, not super emotional, very strong person, which she is. But it probably also is because of the fact that Abby had something to do with Jake getting floated. And I love that. Our last scene at camp, oh boy. First of all, Octavia takes a sip from the whiskey bottle that they find in the abandoned vehicle.
Disgusting. Love it.
Then Jasper asks if he can have a sip. Jasper asks if he can have a sip? He's awake. He's alive. I'm not sure if heavy, hard liquor is like the first thing that you want in your stomach when all you've had is like some weird seaweed tea, but he's okay. Yay! Our episode ends with Wells outside. Charlotte joins him, saying that she's had another nightmare, but it's okay because she now has a way to make sure that she doesn't have these nightmares anymore. And she stabs him in the neck.
Sorry.
Exactly how she saw Clark doing, with Bellamy's knife following his advice to a T. These two are going to be great parents. Wells falls to the ground. It turns out her nightmare that she had every night was Wells's dad, Jaha, because he's the person that floated her parents. He's her demon that she needed to slay. But she couldn't slay Jaha, so she did the next best thing. And she killed Wells because they look alike and have the same face. They don't. Oh, and she hums after she, Wells, the same melody that Clark was humming earlier. She does it more like to herself, like in a self-soothing kind of way. Same melody and everything. Bye-bye, Wells. It was good to not hate you for like 5 seconds. Episode 4 is called Murphy's Law, and it's the last episode of this first arc of episodes. And I think all of the more cringy dialogue is concentrated in these first few episodes, and the show is starting to get good. Number 1, and very important, I still cannot get over Finn's hair. Someone do something. At camp, Clark is leaving flowers by Wells's grave, and Finn approaches and tells her that she should not be out there all alone.
What if I was a grounder? Got Wells just outside the wall.
Yeah, they think the grounders got him. He also tells her that she's the responsible one and he's the reckless one, which I guess, based on like one rebellious act that we've seen from Finn this whole time. I also feel like compared to everyone else at camp who is way more reckless than him, it's like, yeah, he's rebel-ish. Plus, in comparison to Clark, everyone is a party animal. I swear to God, this girl has never not been fully 100% aware of everything that goes on around her at all times. And she has never been relaxed, ever. Finn gives her a coloring pencil that he produces out of thin air, and that makes Clark reminisce about Wells, because apparently he used to trade in his rations for art supplies. For her. And that's so cute. Why did he start getting a personality just seconds before he dies? Clark is feeling a little angry at her mother, so she takes off her bracelet as a protest. The bracelet is intact, and Monty is actually able to use it to hopefully communicate with the Ark. Abby does break down a little bit about this for like 5 seconds, and then she turns on her brain and she's like, this doesn't make sense. Her vitals were fine 10 seconds ago. It can't be radiation because that's not how death by radiation works. So she says that the bracelet's going dark is not conclusive and she still has hope. Too smart, our Abby. Meanwhile, the 100 are fully building their camp. They are setting up tents. They are building infrastructure. They're building houses. There's a guy who's tired and he's collapsing and he says he needs water. So Bellamy tells Murphy to give him some water. And Murphy pees on the guy. I literally hate this man so much. He is pissing me off. No pun intended. Also, Bellamy's being real sweet to Charlotte. He's taking care of her. He is incapable of not big brothering. And then he picks up a clearly fake tree, like a set design tree, and like carries it over his shoulder. This show giveth and this show taketh away, I guess. I'm just sinking further into my chair. I think I need to sit up straight. Octavia is trying to help Jasper get over his anxiety over leaving camp because it has been a week since he's been impaled. And while they're out, they discover Wells's fingers. I guess they've discovered the body already, but he didn't have his fingers? Oh my god, did Charlotte cut off Wells's fingers? Yeah, they fully put his fingers on the table. OMG, Charlotte, girly, what the fuck? They also find the knife that Charlotte planted near the fingers, and they discover that the grounders didn't kill Wells because the knife was made from material from the dropship. So they know it was actually one of them that killed Wells. Clark and Bellamy are having a disagreement about whether they should tell people about this or not, whether they should let them believe that the grounders did it, or whether they should know that actually one of their own did this. And this is actually really interesting because Clark obviously wants to tell people the truth, and she wants to let everyone who has been on high alert because of the grounders. They've been building walls and fences and organizing security patrols. To her, this is good news. It means they don't have to do that anymore. But it's also bad news because it means the issue is inside of the camp. Bellamy does not want to tell people, especially when they don't even know very much about the situation. They don't even know who did it. And yes, because having people being afraid means that they will probably listen to him more and they will work for him. And he admits that. But he also says that it will disturb the peace and the unity that they've experienced recently because they're being united against a common enemy. This will come back later. Clark doesn't care, especially when she sees that the knife that was used has Murphy's initials, JM, John Murphy. So she storms out of there and she confronts him in front of everybody. Murphy denies because he didn't do it and says,
I don't have to answer to you. I don't have to answer to anyone.
Come again?
Honestly, I don't know why he's in charge so much. And I do. It's because he's so much older than everyone else. He's the only adult. Anyway, where were we? Public hanging? Everyone wants to hang Murphy for killing one of their own and also for being just the absolute fucking worst that there is. He's getting fully beaten up, I hope, by the guy that he peed on earlier. Also, shout out to this diva in particular who's doing like the stabby motion, but she's never going anywhere. Yeah. Clark is freaking out. This is not what she meant. She wanted justice. She did not want revenge. And I wonder if that will change anytime soon. She's trying to stop people, so is Octavia, but they're not able to do anything because they're just getting held back by other people. And everyone just keeps beating up Murphy. And they dangle him from a tree by the neck. Clark begs Bellamy to do something because people listen to him. And Bellamy, in a moment that can only be described as like a power trip and him living out all of his control fantasies after everything that has happened to him and him feeling so helpless. He hears people chanting his name and he ignores Clark and he pushes her aside. And he does it. He does it. People say that he should be the one to do it. He should be the one to take the support from under Murphy's feet. And Murphy chokes and almost dies until Charlotte, who is horrified by this whole thing, steps forward and she admits that she was the one who killed Wells. Clark gets an axe and she just cuts Murphy down. Murphy on the ground wants to murder this 13-year-old because, of course, and that's what they wanted to do to him. So that seems only fair.
Why, Charlotte?
I was just trying to slay my demons, like you told me.
What the hell is she talking about?
She misunderstood me, Charlotte. That is not what I meant.
He has some support for it, but not a lot. But Clark and Finn run off with Charlotte to keep her safe. And Charlotte tries to hold Clark's hand in the middle of all of this.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
And Clark's like, ew, no, just because I don't want you to die doesn't mean I like you. You still did an awful, awful thing. Also, why was she trying to hold her hand? They were just walking. Nothing was happening. A little weirdo. Team Let's Not Kill the 13-year-old goes and hides in a bunker. Apparently found by Finn, but not by the grounders who have been down there for 100 years. They never came across it. This is actually where he got the pencil that he gave Clark earlier in the episode. There's art supplies in this bunker. Most importantly, there is food and clothes. Charlotte has a change of heart. She's scared that Murphy will kill Clark and Finn because they helped her, and so she runs out of the bunker and she's going back to camp and she's going to turn herself in. But while she's running, she runs into Bellamy. Bellamy wants to help, but Charlotte does not want to be helped. This girl literally went from, please don't let him hurt me, please do something, please, 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 to, I'm not your sister, stop trying to help me.
Bring the girl out now!
Please don't let them hurt me.
Trying to help you.
I'm not your sister. Just stop helping me.
Okay, Charlotte is over party, catch up to Bellamy and Charlotte, and so do Clark and Finn, and Murphy threatens to kill Clark if Charlotte doesn't go with him and turns herself in, but Bellamy won't let her. She feels so bad and she feels too guilty, so instead of going with Murphy, she jumps from a precipice. They were having this altercation by a cliff, by the way, and she jumps to her demise. R.I.P. Charlotte. Maybe meet again. Maybe. Bellamy is pissed and he is punching Murphy left and right, saying he deserves to die. But Clark steps in and says that we don't decide who lives or dies. Not down here. Because that is how they did things in the Ark. That was their justice system, and that's why they're on the ground in the first place. But she doesn't think that people should blindly have the right to decide anymore, like how they did with the whole public hanging, mob mentality thing. Dangerous take. I wonder if it's a parallel to anything.
So help me God, if you say the people have a right to decide,
Oh, no, I was wrong before, okay? You were right. Sometimes it's dangerous to tell people the truth. We need rules.
And who makes those rules? Huh? You?
For now, we make the rules, okay?
They balance each other out. They have different interests. They have different qualities. In their own way, they're each a leader to different groups of people, and people look to them for guidance and for what to do. Clark suggests that Murphy gets banished instead, and he is not allowed to return to camp, otherwise Bellamy will kill him. Do you see what I mean about the show getting good? It's still cringy in some points, but the plot and the discussions that they're having are really starting to get interesting. And finally, this is what I remembered The 100 being and what set it apart from other shows of its time. And I'm so happy to see it. Even this whole dialogue about them as people in power, struggling with the decision and the implications and dangers about telling their people the whole truth, and the whole parallel between Clark on the Ark and Clark now, this was a very Abby take of her. They essentially made the same decision just at different points in their lives. And this situation and the choices that she's had to make will absolutely impact how she feels about her mom and the decisions that she has had to make. It's so good. Arc storyline, not much is happening, to be honest, until the very end. So Abby and Raven are doing their thing, carrying out their plan, building their escape pod. They need a pressure regulator in order for the pod to work. So Abby tries to get the part by trading in some morphine. We also meet Kane's mom, Vera Kane, who is the leader of this group of believers who believe that the human race will return to the ground. They have a little tree. They have their own little rituals. It looks a little kooky. It kind of feels religion adjacent, especially like Catholic Christianity, especially when they mention something about Kane being a very devout tender of the tree, which to me is giving like altar boy vibes. He's also like giving something to each person in the crowd. This is me speaking from my very limited knowledge of religion because I was raised Catholic and I'm not religious anymore. Anyway, Kane hears from Nigel, who's Nigel, doesn't matter, that both Raven and Abby were trying to get this pressure regulator thing through favors and illegal substances. And that's against the law. And so Abby is getting arrested again, but she tells Raven that she needs to go on. She needs to launch the pod, whether Abby is there or not. Raven is racing against the clock, trying to get the pod up and running, but she can't because actually the part that they got from Nigel was a bad one and they can't use it. So this whole thing is for nothing. But she does see an astronaut suit, a spacewalk suit, and she decides to put that on because with that on, she can regulate her own pressure. Meanwhile, Abby is trying to stall Marcus, but when he arrives to arrest her, she's kind of just menacingly kneeling on the ground like a superhero.
Yeah. It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
Not a poser.
She's also not stalling. She just lets them go. She doesn't even try. What was the point of that, Abby? But Raven, being the badass that she is, of course, does manage to launch the pod. This 18-year-old girl is single-handedly flying herself through space to land on Earth safely in her DIY pod. And you know what? That's bonkers. And you know what's even more bonkers is that that is not even the craziest thing that the writers have Raven do throughout the show. If I told you that she brings herself back to life by shocking her body with a little timer thingy while being completely alone, would you believe me? Would that even make sense to you? Yada, yada, yada. On the ground, they try to make contact with the Ark via the bracelets. Jasper does the honors. But it doesn't work, so he thinks that he's cursed. And Octavia kisses him about it. Sure, I wonder if they had mono in space. Oh, and Finn is losing hope that they will ever be able to make contact with the Ark, that he will ever see his girlfriend again, and Clark is telling him not to lose hope. And so they sleep together about it, because he thinks he'll never see Raven again. But also, it's been 2 weeks, Finn. Control yourself. And said girlfriend is currently in a little DIY pod, getting hurled into Earth by herself. I'm still sick. We push through. Episode 5, Twilight's Last Gleaming. Clark and Finn post, are talking, catching up, and Clark says,
Last night wasn't just about needing someone. I wanted it to be you.
Finn says last night was not about her. He just wanted his first Earth. And she was just around and passively cute. And Clark laughs it off. She's a better woman than me because what the fuck? Finn is also refusing to share the supplies that they found in the bunker with the rest of the group. And Clark, of course, my perfect baby angel girl, is saying that they should share this with everyone. But Finn wants to keep this as their sort of safe haven, away from everyone else. They go outside, they're having a moment in the woods, and then they see a shooting star. Aww. Finn says that they should make a wish because it's something that people used to do a long time ago.
But it's just a rock burning up in the atmosphere. Why would that make your wish come true?
I don't know if you can see shooting stars in space because I think the shooting star of it all is them like burning when they're entering the atmosphere. So anyway, what'd you wish for, Finn? For your girlfriend to not be stuck in a dying space station? Well, congratulations, baby, you got it. Because that is no shooting star. That is Raven Ray's in limbo. She is in her DIY pod, rapidly descending into Earth, doing her best with her metal coffin, as Jaha had called it, to get to Earth safely. They realize that this is a pod that's coming from the Ark, and it's probably filled with medical supplies, with communications, with backup. The camp group also hears this commotion, and Bellamy is shown in bed with not one, but 2 teenage women. Ew! He is particularly interested in anything and anybody coming down from the Ark due to the whole him being arrested thing for shooting the Chancellor. So Bellamy tells everybody to settle down and that they will go and have a look at whatever that was after sunrise. But he sneaks out in the middle of the night and goes and checks it out himself. Clark and Finn go back to camp. They enter Bellamy's tent to talk to him and he's not there. And the girl that he was with says that they should have knocked. Girly, you're in a tent? So Clark and Finn realize that Bellamy probably wants something that's in the pod, and they run to try to catch up with him. Octavia does catch up with him, and she asks why he's doing this and presses him for why he's acting this way. And he admits to being approached by somebody on the Ark who offered him a spot on the dropship if he shot the Chancellor. They fight. Octavia goes back to camp. Bellamy finds the pod, opens the door, sees Raven, doesn't know Raven, steals her radio, and leaves. Raven is alive. She's awake. She's found by Clark and Finn, who comes in much later on for some reason. They reunite and they kiss in front of Clark. Finn introduces Raven to Clark, nothing awkward there. And this also makes me wonder, do they just not know each other? There's only like a couple thousand people in the Ark, and they can't go anywhere else? Especially if you're around the same age as someone, you would assume that you kind of just know everyone. If they're around your year, if you go to school, there's probably only like a couple people in your class. You could probably just see them around, especially if you're all English speaking. I'll get to that later. Raven tells them about the 300 people that are about to get ejected from the Ark, and they all run to catch up to Bellamy. And because Raven knows of him and that he's wanted for shooting Jaha, Clark and Finn are now aware of this too. And Bellamy learns that Jaha is not dead. Clark thinks this is a good thing. It means that he is not a murderer, and so he can't be trialed as one. She gives a great speech, really just a perfect hero complex, big brother, you've always protected your sister, help us protect these people speech, which is very well played on Clark's part, but it's no use because he already threw the radio in the river and it's not usable anymore. But of course, our resident baddie Raven just touched down on Earth, hasn't even been here for more than like 10 minutes, and she's already fixing everything. And she says that she has a way to communicate with the Ark. On said Ark, on said Ark, Abby is in jail. Again, Jaha comes in, says the situation is worse than they expected, that they have even less time than they thought. The signs of oxygen deprivation are becoming more and more prominent, and he wants Abby to take more oxygen so she can be okay and not slowly die. She refuses, saying if they start choosing who gets more oxygen, then they get one step closer to deciding who lives and who dies. She does also end up taking the oxygen, which makes sense. I mean, she's the chief medical officer. She's probably the most important person and the person who needs it the most, because if she's okay, she can help to save a bunch of other people. Much to her dismay, Jaha tells her that a decision has been reached by the council and 300 people will be sacrificed to buy more time for everyone else on the Ark. Honestly, they're both making good points in this scene. It's interesting to notice that Jaha is using really distancing language.
How many? 320 people will be excised from the grid.
But Abby interrupts him and says that they are murdering 300 people. Jaha is showing the oxygen levels and telling Abby that every hour that they do nothing, more people, it's even more sure that they're going to die, and even sooner. But the way in which they want to do it is very messed up. They want to turn off the oxygen in a specific section of the Ark, and they don't want to tell anybody about it. And they want it to come across as an accident. I don't know about that, guys. And then Abby gets upset at Jaha because he says that he will also be on that section. And how could he possibly ask his people to make a sacrifice that he's not willing to make himself? Blah, de blah. He's being very noble about it, which, okay. But also, you know about it, dude. You're walking into it consensually. These people aren't even aware that there's a sacrifice to begin with. Things are getting tricky on the Ark. Abby is treating patients who are getting worse and worse just in the last couple of days, and she's desperately trying to make contact with the ground. And she does not agree with people not knowing about the situation and them not having all the information. So she finds the recording that her husband made while he was getting arrested. I'm surprised that there's still even a copy and that the guard didn't get rid of it, and starts live streaming it to the whole Ark. Now everyone is aware.
The Ark is dying. This city and space that has been our sanctuary.
It's fate that we will
together in this time of uncertainty.
And the council thinks that this will be a reason for a riot and they're preparing for that. But actually, this has inspired people to volunteer and willingly be in Section 17 when the oxygen gets turned off.
Anyway, I'm here to volunteer, I guess you call it.
One of the people who volunteers, the first person who does, we've been following him for the whole episode. He has a daughter, and she's becoming blind from oxygen deprivation. She already can't see out of one eye.
Anyway, you do the math. Some of us are gonna have to jump ship if everyone's gonna make it, so I'm gonna jump.
You'd leave Reese without a father?
This morning he told me my daughter was going blind. There was nothing I could do to help her. Turns out there is.
And of course, he doesn't want to leave her, but he does want her to live and hopefully have a future. After him, there is a line of people who are willing to volunteer for their loved ones and also for the salvation of the human race. And why am I crying watching this? There's a guy who says that him doing this will buy his wife an extra year. Are you joking? And in that moment, they realized that Jake was right, that this moment of suffering actually brought out the best in people. And Abby looks. So now you're caught up on both sides. This is the real tension of the episode, is that the Ark is about to kill 300 people because of the lack of oxygen. Meanwhile, there is plenty of oxygen to be had on the ground, but they can't make contact with the Ark to tell them that it's okay to come down and that they don't have to do this. Kane is actually the one who convinces Jaha not to sacrifice himself, that he inspires people and they would be much more worse off without him. And he says that a transition into a new chancellor would be destabilizing. So he's not that keen to become a chancellor as we thought previously. Raven's plan to contact the Ark was to make flares out of the jet fuel from the pod so they can fire them to space. And they do it, but of course, this happens too late. And 320 people willingly lay down their lives and peacefully fall asleep as their oxygen gets cut off. And they sacrifice themselves for the people that they love. This is actually a heartbreaking scene to watch, especially when you're watching it with the knowledge that this is all unnecessary. The Ark does see the flares after the fact. I say the Ark. It was Abby. But now at least there's hope. Hey, you want to know where Octavia is in the middle of all this? Too bad. You're gonna. I initially thought it was weird how Bellamy left the camp at night and then Octavia caught up to him and it was broad daylight. So either she was waiting to confront him or it took her a while to catch up to him. I don't know. But turns out it was because they needed an excuse for her to be away from everybody else so she could get lost on the way back to camp, trip on a rock or something, fall down a ravine, and hit her head. And honestly, I can't complain about that because this introduces a plot that I love. So she's asleep that whole day. She's asleep, passed out, knocked out, I should say, and gets woken up by a mysterious figure who's just staring at her. I wrote in my notes that I wasn't expecting to like this episode so much upon my rewatch. It's definitely my favorite episode so far because I think it flushes out a lot of characters and it's gut-wrenching. Episode 6 is called His Sister's Keeper, and you'll never guess who it's about. 17 years ago on the Ark, a little boy is watching his mom give birth. Wait a minute, that's not allowed. This woman fully gives birth, unmedicated, quietly, by herself. Very illegal, very illegal. She already has one kid. You only get one kid.
You got one wife!
She's, I think, trying to distract her son and trying to keep him calm. So they're chatting and they compare Chancellor Jaha to Emperor Augustus. And she's reminding her son that he doesn't allow second children because the Ark can't survive that. The woman gives birth. The baby is here. She needs a name. The little boy says that Augustus had a sister. Her name was Octavia. And that's what he names his sister. It's Bellamy and Octavia. I don't know anything about Emperor Augustus, but we assume like a tyrant type authoritarian leader because they're comparing him to Jaha and his rules. And you want to name your sister after him? And their mom passes out, presumably from giving birth by herself and unmedicated and without help. And she tells little Bellamy that he cannot let his sister cry and that his sister is his responsibility. The poor boy. At camp, grown up Bellamy, and I mean grown up, because Bellamy, in the flashback, it was 17 years ago, and he was like maybe 7 years old at the youngest. So he would have to be in his early 20s. And I checked on a Reddit thread, and I trust Reddit with my life, and he's supposed to be like 23, 24. Sir. Clark reads Octavia to filth.
Have you seen Octavia?
No, I mean, it's Octavia. She's probably chasing butterflies.
Clark, I've checked the camp. She's not here.
Octavia is missing, so the group goes looking for her. Finn got a haircut. Thank God for Raven, our savior. It's the first of the many, 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 many heroic acts that she performs throughout the show. Finn also gets roped into finding Octavia because they say he's a tracker. Sure. So there is weird tension between Finn and Clark, and also Finn and Raven, and I won't talk about it because I don't care. It makes me angry. Just know that anytime anything is happening for the next few episodes, they're always just like looking at each other like, I love you. Hate it. Hate it here. They see a meteor shower. It's not a meteor shower. It's the bodies of the 320 people that forfeited their lives being ejected from the Ark. They still want to make contact with the Ark, so Raven and Clark go together to the bunker that Finn found to see if they can scope out any materials that they can use. And the rest go find Octavia. Clark and Raven find the bunker, and we get some more information on Raven's backstory. Apparently, it was her and her mom, but her mom never really cared about her or for her. And she said that she probably had Raven so she could trade in her rations for moonshine. And she survived because of the boy next door, who's Finn, who remembered her birthday and would share his rations with her. And she says he saved her life and that he's family. I'm not gonna lie, that is extremely cute and a rare W for Finn. Raven also says this.
Raven, I know you just got here yesterday, but we don't have time for this. Come on.
Hurry up and save the world. You're just like your mom.
I'm nothing like my mom.
Relax. That's a compliment. Abby's a badass.
And where's the lie? Later on, she does confront Clark about her and Finn getting together. She found a sculpture, and it's Finn's thing. He sculpts. And I assume she also probably notices them longingly staring at each other this whole time. Clark admits to it, and she says she had no idea that Raven even existed. She explained that they thought they were never going to see anyone ever again. And Raven says he could have waited more than 10 days. Clock it. Raven asks if Clark loves Finn. Clark says, I hardly know the guy. They find a little toy car which has a radio frequency, and that works, so they go back to camp. Tracking group find Octavia's footprints, and they find her blood on a rock, and Bellamy is going through it. And they also know that there is someone else with her because of the set of footprints. We pop back to the Ark for another flashback. This time Octavia is around 13, I want to say, which makes Bellamy already like 20. There's a surprise inspection in the room, but don't worry, their mom knows, and they say that she always knows. Somehow. I bet you won't guess how. Side note, Bellamy looks so good here. My crush is really starting to make sense. Octavia hides under the floor, which she hates and is scared of, and the guard comes in, and one of them feels up their mom. It's assumed that they have some sort of relationship going on, and that is how the mom knows about the secret inspections, and also how the mom is planning to get a letter of recommendation for Bellamy so he can also join the guard. Ew. On the ground, where is Octavia? She wakes up again, covered in dirt and blood in a cave. Then the mysterious guy appears with a sword. It looks like he's about to slice her. He doesn't. She passes out. She wakes up again, and she sees that he actually cauterized one of her wounds, and she can walk. So she grabs a pair of antlers as a weapon and starts walking around the cave. Exploration crew is not doing so good. They are deep into grounder territory, and people keep getting abducted from the ground into the trees, and then they just drop dead. It's an ambush. They're in the trees, baby. And they're also on the ground. They're everywhere. They start running. A couple more people get impaled. Octavia is this close to finding the group, but just before she's reunited with them, the mysterious guy comes up behind her and covers her mouth, just in time to see one of the people in the exploration group get impaled. They really like their impaling in this episode. So this person is trying to save her life. They're not trying to hurt her. Octavia begs the man to help the rest of the group, but he can't understand her, and she gets carried back to the cave. Although this time she is not allowed to walk around freely anymore. She gets chained to the wall, which really triggers her fear of confined spaces. Exploration crew is about to get got by the grounders, but they hear a horn, which means that there's acid fog coming. So they try to take cover, but the acid fog never comes. So they get out of there. The grounders have already left because of the acid fog, and they see the mysterious person walking around, and they chase him because they hope that it's going to lead them to Octavia. Then back in the arc, Octavia is now played by the same actress that plays her on the show, so it means she's closer to being 16, and she's in the worst wig that I've seen so far in the season. It's bad, and it also just isn't her hair color. Like, it's much too dark for her, but I guess it could also be just the coloring of the flashback or the fact that she hadn't seen the sun yet. Bellamy comes into the room with his new guard outfit on, and Octavia thinks that this is another secret inspection, so she says,
I'll get in the hall.
like she's in prison. But that's not it. There's a party going on, and Bellamy says that he can sneak her in and keep an eye on her and then bring her back. It's a masquerade ball, so he gives her a little mask. And also, so no one is like, who is this child? Do we know her? Honestly, if I were ARC security, I would be less concerned about a child in a mask and more concerned about all of the extra resources that this one family seems to need. Why they need a heads up every time there is a surprise inspection, or why the mom gained a little bit of weight for like 9 months and then she lost it all again, or all the crying that was coming from the room for like a couple years. We see the outside of their room. We see another door. We know they have neighbors. They share a wall. You're telling me no one heard anything? It's not like they're whispering in there. No one heard a third person. No one heard the tantrums of a three-nager. Anyway, Octavia is out, and this is actually a really cute scene between the two of them. You can tell Bellamy is so happy to be able to help his sister and to see her experience the world outside of their room, because she has literally never done that. And it's probably something that he also takes for granted and gets to experience for the first time in a different way. They get to the party. We see Jasper doing drugs. Seems accurate. He's the only one that we see from the squad. And Octavia's there. She's having a great time. She's dancing. She's just being a normal kid. And then the lights turn on and the guard comes in and they're doing some sort of check, and Bellamy tells her to run and that he'll make a distraction and she can just go back to the room. Octavia doesn't know where the room is. She's never been outside. She doesn't even know where she is. So they get caught. Later on, we get another flashback. Bellamy is now a janitor, a disgraced ex-guard member, and he comes home to an empty room because his sister is in prison for being an illegal child, and his mom got floated for having said illegal child. I think I saw this once online and I haven't checked it and I'm not going to, but I'm pretty sure in the books, Octavia is supposed to be Jaha's kid. Like, Jaha is Octavia's dad.
And this is why you don't just say things based on one thing that you saw one time, because Bellamy is Jaha's kid in the books, not Octavia.
A commander comes into the room and comes to Bellamy with a proposal. He tells him that the juvenile delinquents are going to the ground and that he can get him a spot on that dropship if he can do one little favor for him. Back to the ground, the guys are chasing the mysterious figure around. The mysterious figure gets back to the cave to check on Octavia, and Octavia hits him over the head with a rock, and she sets herself free. She's also being locked up with what looks like a really modern padlock and a key, and it clashes a lot with everything that we've seen the Grounders use and wear and have around them up until now. The group find Octavia. She's saved, and the mysterious guy is knocked out, but he's not actually. He gets up and he stabs Finn in the chest. After Finn discovers that he was actually the one who blew the foghorn when there was no fog, so the Grounders would run away. Mysterious guy takes out Finn, then he guns for Bellamy, and Octavia begs him not to, and then Jasper hits him in the head with a rock. The amount of head trauma in this episode alone. They run back to the camp looking for Clark, who by now is very much a leader, mainly for her medical skills because Finn got stabbed, but also just for who she is as a person. Finn is alive. Bellamy carries him in, assuming he carried him the whole way. Damn. Clark can help Finn, but she can't save him. She doesn't have the medical skills. She needs her mom, and she tells Raven to fix the radio so they can communicate. Bellamy and Octavia are fighting outside. Tensions are very high, but Octavia is finally kind of standing up for herself and being her own person outside of being Bellamy's younger sister. But she also lashes out at him, and Bellamy does not take it well.
Mom was floated for having you. She's dead because you're alive. That was her choice. I didn't have a choice. My life ended the day you were born.
Episode 7 is called Contents Under Pressure. Raven is trying to contact the Ark. Remember, they have a radio now. Can they contact the Ark? No, they can't. Because there's a storm, obviously. And low-key, I forgot that Finn at this very moment was stabbed and not doing so good. I think I took a couple days off while I was watching the show, and when I tuned back in, I was like, what? On the Ark, Abby is forgiven for her crimes of insurrection due to her medical abilities and the fact that she is an insane asset. That sounded weird. I'm sorry, Abigail. I don't know if your asset is insane. I'm not looking at you like that. I promise. But she did lose her seat on the council or whatever. She immediately starts stirring shit in the council, saying that they need to talk about the flares and what they saw, and the council don't care. But she does, and she's calling them stupid for not caring. Period, Abby. Just then, they hear Raven's transmission and her voice coming through the radio, and it's coming through all the Ark speakers. So everyone is aware of what's going on.
The 100 are alive. Please, you need to get Dr. Abby Griffin. Dr. Abby Griffin, now!
Hang on, Raven. We're trying to boost your signal.
Clark takes over. She has a little moment with her mom, and she tells her that the 100 are alive and on the ground. Most of them are alive. Sorry, Jaha. And they need their help to get a knife out of Finn's chest. They don't have a lot of supplies, so they're using moonshine made by Monty to disinfect their hands to perform surgery on Finn during a storm via radio instructions. Finn wakes up while Clark is removing the knife from his chest, which also needs to be at a very precise angle, and a gush of wind hits them, and she flies across the room, knife in hand, but Finn's fine. She did it. Bellamy and co. come back to camp with the mysterious Grounder, who is passed out, and they lock him in the upstairs area of the dropship to be tortured. Octavia tries to talk to her brother and to tell him that this Grounder was not trying to hurt her. He was trying to help her, and he saved her on more than one occasion. And Bellamy says that he's doing this for everyone that they lost and everyone that got hurt since they've been on the ground. Bellamy's trying to question the Grounder, but he's not giving him anything. And Octavia mentioned that he probably doesn't even speak English, and he can't understand what he says. Which begs the question, is 100 years enough for a language to go completely extinct? Finn starts seizing. They can't contact the Ark anymore because of the storm, and they deduce that the knife was actually poisoned, so he's suffering from poison now. I say they, but it was Clark, of course. She goes back to the Grounder, who's being locked up.
Hey! Get out of my way, Miller. Now!
And she asks the Grounder which poison he used. They find a bunch of little vials that he had on him and assume that he has both the poison, but also it would be stupid for him to not carry around an antidote as well. But the Grounder won't budge. They're all trying different ways to get information out of him. Bellamy is trying the intimidation technique. Clark is being firm but logical. And Octavia is going, please.
Shots. Please. Which one?
But nothing works, so they start torturing him. Clark says yes to the torture because she wants Finn to live. I want Finn to leave. They also do this dramatic reveal of the Grounder's abs. Ricky Whittle, who plays this character, gets this dramatic music and the shot of like Bellamy ripping off his shirt. It's not funny, actually. He's getting hella tortured. I forgot that they whip him, and when the whipping isn't working, Bellamy nails him. No. Well, he nails his hands to where he's being held up like Jesus on the cross. There's a lot of Jesus references in this episode, more than usual. Although why do I still have my hands up? Although I do like the way in which the show handles conversations about religion. Post nailing the Grounder, Raven comes in, her patience has run out, and she gets some cables, like electrical cables, and she electrocutes the crap out of this Grounder. But none of this works. Octavia slices her arm with the poisoned knife because she knows that this guy has a soft spot for her, and she's right, because the second that she does that, he starts communicating. They sprint off to give Finn his antidote, and Octavia is pissed at everyone. And that is actually, OMG, an insane scene for Octavia and her man. He survived electrical torture. He endured getting nailed by Bellamy. He was not about to let Octavia die. Also, later on, Clark is trying to clean his wounds, but he won't let her, so Octavia takes over, and he opens his hand for her so she can clean his wounds. And our Grounder friend says, thank you. He speaks. I mean, of course he speaks. He speaks English. Clark tells Octavia that she's sorry and she didn't want him to get hurt. She was just trying to save Finn. And Octavia says,
For the record, you didn't save Finn, that was me.
Clark is really torn up about what happened with the Grounder, and Bellamy offers some comfort and says that who they are and who they need to be to survive are completely different people. He said, let me fill you in on a little something called compartmentalization. The radio comes back, Abby is able to reach Clark, and Clark is having a teeny tiny little mental breakdown saying that she can't do this without Finn for some reason, and Abby is trying to cheer her up. Finn is fine. He got the antidote, but Clark is still freaking out. And her mom says what a good job she did and how proud she is of her and how proud her dad would be. Abby, no. Clark tells her mom that she knows the reason why her dad got floated was her. And Abby is flabbergasted. And the comms cut off again. Eliza Taylor, who plays Clark, is really coming into her acting realness in these episodes. I think it gets even better in season 2, probably because the script just gets better and she has like more material that she can work. But she stays out acting everyone that she has a scene with. Though I do really like her mom's actress as well. There's a side plot that I need to tell you about, but I don't want to tell you about, but I need to tell you about it. There's an ex-chancellor, Diane, I don't know her name. She's saying that the workers are upset and they could be revolting due to the lack of resources and yada yada, the whole execution thing. She discovers that Jaha is planning to implement the Exodus protocol, which means that the Ark is coming to the ground. Did I just boop the mic? Actually, there's 2 side plots, kind of. They're connected. The group of believers of the ground are having a gathering, and Marcus joins in saying that he's exactly where he's supposed to be. He has a real come to Jesus moment. I had a nickel for every time they made a Jesus reference in this episode. I'd have 2 nickels.
If I had a nickel for every single time that Jacob Lordy had a woman on the leash just this year, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
But people are not happy with him post the 320 people getting executed thing. Fighting ensues. Jaha and the guard come in. People are upset. They want answers. and Jaha calls a general meeting with everyone in the Ark. Cain is really struggling post 320 people sacrifice, and he says that if only he had waited a day, they could all still be alive. And he really regrets it. He really regrets pushing Jaha to do it, which he did. But he was so sure at the time that that was the only way and that was the right thing to do. Jaha tells who we're supposed to believe is everyone on the Ark, I guess, sure, that the Earth is survivable and that mankind is going back to Earth. People are still hurt and upset and in pain after everything that happened, and a mix of relief because they can survive on the ground, but also the tragedy that's weighing on them of this huge sacrifice being for nothing. I will say, Isaiah Washington is also acting his heart out in this scene.
You know nothing about how we feel.
I lost my son!
Controversial, I know, but damn.
She may be difficult, but boy, can she sing.
Diana, I don't remember her name, is spewing some crap, showing sympathy for Jaha, saying he sacrificed enough. And Jaha offers her a spot on the council. Uh-oh, we have another problem. Apparently, there are 2,237 people on the Ark and only 700 escape pods. So not everyone is making it to the ground. Also, Finn's fine. Episode 8 is called Day Trip. Bellamy and co. are figuring out what to do with the mystery grounder, and Bellamy does not want to kill him, but tensions are high. As now, since people can communicate with the Ark, they're telling everyone who didn't make it and their families, and that puts a real target on our grounder's back. Clark is talking to Jaha, and it's giving me on Zoom during the pandemic. Jaha gives them directions for a bunker with supplies because winter is coming, I guess. And the kids are taking turns talking to the Ark and talking to their loved ones. There's a kid who comes in named Dax, who we've never seen before, and he comes in to talk to his mom, but the same guard person that approached Bellamy cuts in and tells him he has a job for him. And this man, not only is he giving us nothing in terms of acting.
Where's my mom?
We're supposed to believe he's, I'm gonna be generous and say 17. Clark is checking in on Finn, who is still wounded, but he's happy to be alive, and Clark tells him to stay put.
I'll tie him down if I have to.
Okay. Clark and Bellamy set out on a day trip to find the supplies that the Ark was telling them about, and Clark says that she asked Bellamy to come because she does not really feel like being around anyone she likes right now. Doubt it. Is this a safe time to say that I love them so much? I love them so much. I might go into my Balark, is that what they're called? Rant later on, but they end up together in the books. Did you know that? They have such good chemistry on the show, especially in the first few seasons, because I, much like any other teenage girl in the 2010s, am a sucker for a good enemies to lovers situation and a rebel with the goody two shoes situation. I read CEO YN fanfic. I know what I'm about. So I love Bellamy and Clark. And this is where we kind of start seeing glimpses of that. Octavia sneaks into where they're holding our mysterious grounder prisoner, and she gives him some water with a lot of sexual tension, and she also cleans up his 8-pack. Of course. Grounder Man has a name. His name is Lincoln.
Lincoln. I'm Octavia.
And he says that it's not safe for them to talk. Raven and Finn are being weird. Raven is trying to jump this man's bones, not even 24 hours after he got stabbed. And Finn wants to talk, and Raven does not. She says she knows what happened with him and Clark, and that she doesn't care, and she asks him if he loves her, and he says yes. And they, Clark and Bellamy are out. They're eating these berries and nuts that people at camp picked up and were putting into little packets, supposedly to store for the winter. And they're having a little heart-to-heart. Clark is trying to convince Bellamy that maybe they won't want to kill him. Maybe they'll be lenient. Maybe they'll forgive him because Jaha isn't dead. But Bellamy is convinced that he's done for. They find the bunker with the supplies, and by they, I mean Clark.
Over here. I found a door.
Meanwhile, Dax, remember Dax? Meanwhile, Dax is menacingly walking around the area, hiding in bushes, trying to get Bellamy. They don't find food or supplies, but they do find guns. Bellamy is very excited about it. This guy loves himself some guns. Plus, having guns means that they're not sitting ducks just waiting for the grounders to get them anymore. Clark doesn't love it, but she does agree that she should know how to use a gun in case there's a need for it. So Bellamy starts teaching her, and they keep zooming in on every little touch that they have together, and I'm not supposed to root for them. Clark actually likes shooting a gun a lot. She thinks it's very fun. Bellamy is so proud. He's so happy. I think this is the moment where he starts simping for her for real, and it's gonna last a while. In the midst of all the talking and bonding, Clark figures out that Bellamy is not planning on going back to camp. He's planning on running away. Back at camp, people are still snacking on these berries and nuts that they scavenged, and Jasper steps out to pee, and he sees a man in dark clothing who wants to hurt him. So he runs around and he tells everybody about this man, but no one else sees this man. This man is not there. Jasper is hallucinating. Octavia catches on pretty quick on what's going on, and she gentle parents this man by taking a stick and saying, "Look, this is an anti-grounder stick. As long as you have this and you sit right here, they can't get you." And that's so me managing my friends on a night out, truly. She gives the guy who's guarding Lincoln some berries, and she's just waiting for them to kick in. And kick in it does at camp. No one's doing well. Everyone's taking their clothes off. They're wandering around. They're talking to themselves. They're not making any sense. So she gets Lincoln and she tells him to leave, and he kisses her. And they're acting like Octavia's having her first kiss ever, when in the first couple of episodes she was running around kissing everybody. Finn actually catches Lincoln leaving because him and Raven didn't eat the berries, so they're not hallucinating. And Finn lets him go. Bellamy, who had stepped out of the bunker to get some air, is tripping balls because he had a bunch of those berries on the way there. He's also having hallucinations. He's seeing scary figures, but his scary figure is Chancellor Jaha. And I guess it's a common side effect of these berries because other people are seeing scary people. Jaha is saying everything that Bellamy in his guilt believes to be true, that he's the reason why everything bad has happened, that he's the reason why 320 people are dead because he got rid of the radio and the ground couldn't communicate with the Ark. Clark is also tripping balls. Her scary hallucination is her turning the gun on herself and then snapping out of it. Kind of, because then she hallucinates her dad. Jake Griffin is here. Clark, of course, is the only person to snap back to reality, sort of. She catches herself before shooting her gun at herself, and she says that she knows her dad isn't real and that he's not really there. And she figures out that the reason why she's hallucinating her dad is because she needs to forgive her mom. She's having intellectual, philosophical, introspective realizations while everyone else is getting naked and talking about the moon.
Hey, is the moon in here? Monty, I can't change the tide if the moon won't cooperate.
Get out of here.
It's basic physics.
You want me to forgive her. You want me to say Mom did the best she could.
This is about what you want.
You're dead because of her. She doesn't deserve my forgiveness.
And her dad tells her that forgiveness is not about what people deserve, talking about herself and her mom. She gets discovered by Dax and gets knocked unconscious. Bellamy is hallucinating the 320 people that he killed. He actually begs Jaha to kill him, but Jaha tells him that he owes it to the people that he killed to live.
Live. Breathe. Suffer. You owe them that. You want the peace of death. And you're gonna have to earn it.
Jesus fucking Christ, Bellamy. Oh my God. Dax shows up, is about to shoot Bellamy, but Clark shows up with her own gun. She threatens Dax. Fighting ensues. A lot of bullets are duds, so there's a lot of shooting and missing. But Bellamy ends up stabbing Dax in the neck. R.I.P. Clark and Bellamy talk about how they are not okay.
All I do is hurt people. I'm a monster.
You saved my life today. And you may be a total ass half the time. But I need you.
And you can see the spark come back into this man's eyes as soon as Clark says that. I cannot stress this enough. Bellamy needs to big brother. That sentence of I need you, someone needs you, you need to protect someone is like catnip to him. Clark says this.
You want forgiveness? Fine, I'll give it to you. You're forgiven, okay?
And this will come back. They decide that they don't have a choice. They have to go back and they have to do the best that they can for their people. And they each have to face their demons. We go back to camp. And again, I love how well Clark was having all these introspective realizations and Bellamy was battling with his guilt. Monty ate a pine cone.
Because it told me to.
Head empty. No guilt. They find out that Lincoln is gone and everyone is freaking out. And when Clark and Bellamy go back to camp, they show off all of the guns. Finn is not happy about this, and I hate to give that to him, but he's right. He's got a point, but so does Clark, because she says that there is no perfect answer here, and that she trusts Bellamy. How far we've come. Bellamy finally accepts to talk to Jaha, which he's been avoiding this whole time, and Clark is there, and she gives a little speech about how valuable Bellamy is and how he should be pardoned.
Bellamy Blake, you're pardoned for your crimes. Now, tell me who gave you the gun.
And just like that, Bellamy Blake is forgiven. That was easy. The guard officer gets arrested. I don't think we ever see him again. It's why I haven't bothered to learn his name. Oh yeah, he doesn't appear again because Diane, I can't remember her name, gets him and they make it look like a suicide. Episode 9 is called Unity Day, and this is a long episode for us. It's gonna take a while. Unity Day is celebrated on the Ark, and it celebrates the merging of the 12 stations into what is the Ark. But Finn tells us that this is a lie, and this unity only happened after the 13th station was blown out of the sky. Whatever that means.
The Unity Day story gives people hope, though. And peace came out of that violence.
Did there need to be violence at all?
Yeah. Monty has made more moonshine. Everyone is ready to drink. Everyone is ready to party, including the people on guard duty with guns. Okay. The 100 are celebrating, and Bellamy tells Clark that she deserves to go have a drink, enjoy herself. She's earned a night off. And he's so sweet about it. He looks so happy. Ay, ay, ay. Finn walks in, telling everyone not to use weapons, not to use guns. His girlfriend is literally the one making sure the bullets are usable. And he suggests that they talk to the Grounders. Raven's logic here is that the Grounder, Lincoln, is a bad guy because he was about to let Finn die, which it's Finn. And also, he doesn't know him. He doesn't owe him anything. And he got kidnapped and tortured after he saved one of their people. But Finn is being very level-headed about this, even though it was his life on the line.
It didn't matter what we did to him. He was ready to let you die.
He was protecting himself.
Why are you defending him?
In the Ark, everyone is preparing for the Exodus program, but they don't know about the whole shortage of lifeboats situation. So there's a big celebration for Unity Day, and we see the actual 12 stations, which correspond to 12 countries, 12 nations that form the Ark. If you're curious, I Googled it. It's Australia, Brazil, which is the Mecca station, which Raven says that she's from. Okay, Brazilian rainha. Canada, China, France, India, Japan, Russia, the United Kingdom, the United States, Uganda, and Venezuela. So, if you're from any other country, like myself, good luck. Maybe other countries made other space stations. Maybe we have our own space station somewhere. We don't need them. There is a big explosion during the celebration. A lot of people were injured. Some people were dead, including Kane's mom, who had asked him earlier to take the tree to the ground, and he kind of brushed her off, saying he has work to do and he doesn't even remember the ceremony or what he's supposed to say. But he does. Kane says goodbye to his mom, and he recites the saying that will become the saying for the show, for the 100, when people are saying goodbye to each other. Usually when someone dies, but they say in other contexts as well. They figure out that this was an attempt on Jaha's life, and Diana, I can't remember her name, her plan is to take the Exodus ship and leave with her goons and her people. She says he's representing the working people. They shut down the power to most of the Ark, and they start diverting it to the Exodus ship. So not only is this bitch leaving, she's killing everyone on the Ark, because cutting power from the Ark to the Exodus ship too quickly means that they won't have power anymore. They won't have electricity, they won't have heating, they won't have oxygen. So Diane, whatever, starts the protocol, and she tells people while she's already in her little ship that she's blocking off, the doors can't open. She tells people that Jaha is lying to them because there aren't enough lifeboats on this ship. And this makes some people falter and some people deflect and go to her side and get on the ship. Poor Abby gets sucked into the middle of all of this. She's on the ship when Diana, I don't remember her name, activates the protocol and closes the doors against her will. Stuff happens, buttons are pressed, people deflect. The Exodus shit is going to the ground. On the ground, Octavia runs off during the celebration. She's chasing butterflies again. She actually isn't chasing butterflies. She's chasing flowers. Left by Lincoln, and she meets him in his cave, and she tries to sneak up behind him with a knife. I guess they've been working together to make her a better warrior and to refine her fighting skills. But she taps him on the back before stabbing him. Remind me to never go on a stealth mission with Octavia. And Lincoln catches her, and they flirt, and they kiss. I also think it's very funny and personally very amusing to me how the assumption is that every time that they meet up, Octavia will try to jump Lincoln. And this man who's already on very high alert all the time and has to worry about all these things and all these enemies also now has to worry about his girlfriend badly sneaking up behind him to stab him. I think that's funny. I hear a noise. Is it a person that wants to kill me, or is it my girlfriend who wants to give me a smooch? And a smooch they do. We get a very steamy, very long scene of Octavia and Lincoln getting it on, and I guess they care for each other. They don't want the other person to die, but we haven't really seen them interact with each other, and we definitely have not seen them talk. And how old is this man? Actually, the actors playing them are 27 and 34, so it doesn't look that out of place when you're watching it, but Octavia is 16, and the actress looks very young. And Lincoln is 34, and Lincoln, God bless, looks 34. I Googled it, and Lincoln is estimated to be 25 years old. No. Finn actually finds them not doing anything. They were just hanging out outside. They're doing this thing again where he chased Octavia to the cave, but he was close enough that he could chase her, but he was far away enough where they could have had this whole conversation and this whole everything else, and he still only reached them a bunch of time later. Or it's possible that he tracked her down because he is a tracker, but they never tell us that. If anything, I'm trying to make more sense of this than the writers of the show. Finn actually came to return Lincoln's knife, and he finds out that he's the one who blew the foghorn, and he's actually there because he believes that there is a possibility for peace. If him and Lincoln can get along, and arguably they have the most history together with them getting stabbed and tortured, then there's hope. Finn wants Lincoln to bring him to his leader, and he's using the very valid argument that the rest of the arc that's coming down, they're ruthless. And if they feel threatened when they are down here, they will escalate the conflict.
All right. You bring your leader, I'll bring mine.
What, Bellamy? He'll never go for this.
Not your brother. Clark.
The man-child with impulse issues, tremendous amounts of guilt, disregard for rules, and who loves to shoot guns? No! Bring me the sensible lady with tremendous amounts of guilt and who loves to shoot guns. Please. It just so happens that this takes place on the night where our sensible lady who loves to shoot guns is taking the night off, and Clark is drunk.
I've set up a meeting with the Grounders.
A meeting? We can't live in peace with people who've done nothing but kill us.
Can you think of a better way to stop the bloodshed?
Yeah, with the guns that the guard burned down.
And he says that he trusts them, which is frankly stupid. And Clark agrees, and she also agrees to not bring any backup. She is lying. She runs and she tells Bellamy. Bellamy hates this idea of Clark meeting up with the leader of the Grounders with no backup and no weapons. And Clark says it's worth a shot, but she does need backup. She needs a safety, so she asks Bellamy to follow her. And she says Finn doesn't know about it, and Bellamy is loving it. And then she tells him to bring guns, and I swear this man could propose. Bellamy recruits Jasper because apparently he handled himself really well in the Grounders cave. Sure, bring possibly the most traumatized person in the camp who has sustained the worst injuries and PTSD from something the Grounders did. Sounds like a plan. And Raven is coming too. So we have our diplomats and we have our backup. They get to the meeting location. The Grounders show up with horses and weapons, because of course they did. They didn't even hide them, though, unlike our guys. Clark goes off to meet their leader, Anya, and says, I think we got off to a wrong start, but they want to find a way to live together in peace. Anya says that they started a war that they cannot end, and Clark is confused because from her perspective, they didn't do anything. They got attacked for no reason, and turns out the flares that they sent so they could communicate with the Ark ended up burning a village. It seems pretty war-starting-y to me. Anya calls the 100 invaders. Their ship landed on Grounder territory. They sent out an armed raiding party to capture and torture one of their own. And that's fair, but I'm also not forgiving them for their crimes. You impaled Jasper and then picked his body from one location to a second location to tie him to a tree and set up traps for his friends that were coming to rescue him because they crossed a border that they didn't even know existed. The raiding party hadn't killed anyone until your guys started plucking people from the ground into the trees and murdering them. I get it, and so does Clark, and she's being a baddie about it, of course.
I see your point. That's why we need to put an end to all of this.
Clark says that although she can't promise that the Ark will honor the terms of their agreement, which is valid, she can't control them.
If you fire the first shot, those people coming down won't bother negotiating. Our technology, they will wipe you out.
They wouldn't be the first to try.
The 100 backup crew discovers the Grounders also have a backup crew.
Grounders in the trees.
What? My guy, you're in the trees. Jasper freaks out. He thinks they're about to shoot Clark, and he just opens fire and starts shooting them. And you did it at my peace meeting. Fighting ensues. The 100 are shooting guns. The Grounders are shooting arrows. Lincoln takes an arrow for Octavia, snaps it off, and says it's just a scratch. And the meeting is over. Back at camp, they tell everyone about this, and they're fighting, and some good points are made.
They came there to kill you, Finn.
You don't know that.
Jasper fired the first shot!
And some really bad points are made too.
You didn't have to trust the grounders. You just have to trust me.
Finn, shut up. You don't control the grounders. Yeah, they hadn't done anything up until that point. Maybe it would have continued that way. Maybe it wouldn't have. You were told that there were going to be no guns. Lincoln was told there were going to be no weapons from the grounders' side. And there were. He can't control them either. Clark and Finn are starting to give like Republican girlfriend, liberal boyfriend vibes. And you know what? Hell yeah. In the sense that
In the sense that, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm saying that
women in male-dominated fields. The 100 see the Exodus ship coming down to Earth, and they're excited at first until they figure out that it's coming too fast. And it explodes on impact. Abby presumably still on board.